Good day everyone, I am Angelique V. Maramba from BSN1 Kolcaba, and for today's activity, we will demonstrate the location and palpating the surface anatomy of the lower limb. Greater trochanter of the femur. It is the most lateral point of the proximal femur, and it typically lies 6 to 8 inches in the iliac crest. This is easier to locate in women than in men because of the wider pelvis. Also, it is more likely to be covered by bulky muscle in men. This is the patella. The kneecap is a small triangular bone that rests on the front of your knee. And the tibial tuberosity. It is a large broad protrusion located on the anterior surface of the proximal tibia. It can easily be palpated as the protrusion located just inferior to the patella. This is the lateral malleolus. It is the prominent bone on the outer side of the ankle at the end of the fibula. The next one is medial malleolus, the small prominent bone on the inner side of the ankle at the end of the tibia. The last one is calcaneus or the heel bone. It is one of the 7 tarsal bones and the foot's largest bone. It plays a significant role in supporting the weight of one's body while standing or ambulating. And now, we will demonstrate the movements of the synovial joints. Flexion. It decreases the angle between two structures as they bend or move closer together. In contrast, extension increases the angle between two structures as they straighten or move further apart. So now, let's take a look for some examples of flexion and extension. Elbow flexion, or what we call forearm flexion, occurs when the angle between forearm and arm decreases, allowing the ulna of the forearm to move closer toward the humerus bone. In contrast, elbow extension, also called forearm extension, occurs when the forearm moves away from arms, increasing the angle between those bones. Shoulder flexion, also called arm flexion, occurs when the angle between the humerus of the arm and the scapula decreases. In contrast, shoulder extension, also known as arm extension, occurs when the angle between the humerus of the arm and the scapula increases, causing the arm to move posteriorly. And the joint here allows the posterior movement past the anatomical position. So what is abduction? It is the movement of structure away from its midline reference. So during abduction, the arms move away from the body's midline. What is adduction? It occurs as the structure is added back toward the midline reference point. During arm adduction, you add them right back toward the midline. What is rotation? A body movement term that describes a bone moving around a central axis. The head can rotate laterally to either the left side or the right side because of the 5-week joint between vertebrae C1 and C2. Medial rotation occurs as the anterior surface of the head returns toward the anatomical position. The vertebral column can rotate laterally to the left or right. The ball and the socket joint of the shoulder allows the humerus of the arm to rotate laterally or away from the body's midline, which also called external rotation. It can also rotate medially or toward the body's midline, which is also called internal rotation. The circumduction utilizes 4 different movements. I like to do it in slow motion so you can see how those 4 movements combine to create that circular effect. Looking at the shoulder joint, I'll begin with arm flexion, then arm abduction, next is arm extension, followed by arm adduction, and when you combine those movements into the smooth motion, you can see how it forms a cone or circle. Pronation. The rotation of radius in a medial direction, leaving thumbs pointing medially and palms down or back. Supination, a rotation of radius in lateral direction, leaving thumbs pointing away and palms up or forward. Inversion, a movement that results in the medial turning of the sole of the foot. Eversion, a movement that results in the lateral turning of the sole of the foot, the opposite of inversion. Dorsiflexion, a movement of the ankle joint in a dorsal direction. Plantar flexion, a movement of the ankle joint which the foot is flexed downward. Plantar flexion helps you to stand on your toes and walk in any direction.